It started like any other day. Morning light streaming through the bedroom window, the faint sound of birds outside, and the distant hum of cars on the highway. For Noah Carter, the day ahead was just another routine. Coffee, work, the endless loop of life. But then the sky shattered. At first it was subtle. A low vibration, barely noticeable, like a storm rumbling far off in the distance. Then came the sirens. Emergency alerts buzzing on phones, televisions cutting to static, news anchors speaking in rushed, urgent voices. Reports of shadows in the sky, cities going dark, and then nothing. Noah barely had time to step onto his balcony before the power grid failed completely. The air felt thick, the static charge of something unnatural settling into his skin. And then he saw them. The ships were unlike anything from human imagination. Towering monoliths, impossibly sleek, stretching across the sky like floating obelisks. No lights, no visible engines, just silence as they loomed over every major city on Earth. And then the light came. It wasn't fire, or energy, or anything Noah had ever seen before. It was a pulse, a silent wave of shimmering distortion that rippled across the skyline. The moment it touched him, his body collapsed. Muscles refused to obey, his limbs went numb, and his consciousness faded into the void. Noah awoke to a feeling of cold metal beneath his back. His head pounded, his mouth dry, and his vision blurred as he tried to focus. Something was wrong. He wasn't in his apartment anymore. The air smelled different, too clean, too sterile. The walls around him were a smooth, unbroken white, illuminated by an unseen light source. He tried to move, only to feel a strange pressure around his wrists and ankles. He wasn't alone. There were others, dozens of people, all trapped in identical enclosures, each one a transparent reinforced cell, with no doors, no seams, nothing that suggested an escape. Some were still unconscious, others were awake, shouting, banging against the walls, crying. A voice, cold, synthetic, alien, cut through the air. Specimen identified, primate class, Homo sapiens, behavioral analysis in progress. Noah turned, heart hammering in his chest. Beyond the glass they watched. The aliens stood tall, their elongated forms cloaked in armor-like exoskeletons. Their eyes, large, black, reflective, held no emotion, only clinical curiosity. They moved with precise, methodical grace, observing their captives like scientists studying insects in jars. One of them stepped forward, its head tilting slightly as it examined him. Then it raised a thin mechanical device and tapped on a glowing interface. Noah felt a sharp sting in his arm. A split second later, his muscles locked again. Not paralyzed, but controlled. His arms lifted against his will, his legs moved forward, and before he could scream, he was walking. No, he was being walked. They were being sorted. Humans, men, women, children were separated into categories. Some were tagged and taken away, while others were forced to perform simple actions, walking, running, reacting to stimuli. A child cried out as an alien prodded her forward. Her mother, still restrained, screamed her name. No one could do anything. The truth was sinking in fast. This wasn't war. It wasn't extermination. It was something worse. Humanity had not been conquered. They had been claimed. We were no longer the dominant species. We were specimens. We were pets. And this was only the beginning. Noah Carter was no stranger to fear. He had lived through hurricanes, power outages, even a car accident that left him with 3 broken ribs. But nothing prepared him for this. The cold, sterile corridors stretched endlessly in every direction. He didn't know where they were taking him, but the invisible force guiding his body gave him no choice. His limbs moved with unnatural precision, his own muscles betraying him. Ahead, other humans were being led down separate paths, funneled into different chambers. Some resisted, banging on the glass, screaming for answers. The aliens didn't react. They observed. They recorded. Noah gritted his teeth as his legs carried him forward. He would not break. Then the corridor opened up into something disturbing. It looked like a laboratory, but that wasn't quite right. Inside, humans were being tested. One ran in a circular pen, chased by a hovering drone that zapped him every time he slowed. Conditioning. Another sat before a screen that flashed symbols and sounds in rapid succession. When she responded incorrectly, a jolt of energy sparked against her restraints. Behavioral correction. The worst were the cages, the ones with families. Noah's breath caught as he watched a man attempt to shield his wife and daughter. An alien extended a long, precise instrument, placing it close to the child's face. The father lunged, only to be restrained midair, frozen like a statue. Specimen displaying pack protective response. Logged. The alien tapped something on its device, and the father collapsed, gasping for breath. Noah clenched his fists. This wasn't training. This was domestication. Then it was his turn. He was led into a large open enclosure, a space eerily similar to a training ground. Artificial grass beneath his feet, a ceiling high above that simulated an artificial sky. The only real giveaway was the gleaming metal walls surrounding it. A mechanical hiss sounded behind him, a gate closing. Then the voice came again. Specimen 43, 2-7, Behavioral Assessment, Stage 1. A door on the far end of the enclosure slid open. Noah braced himself. At first he saw nothing, just an empty doorway, leading into shadow. Then it stepped out, a creature, quadrupedal, lean, and disturbingly fast. Its skin was a pale, glistening gray, stretched taut over powerful muscles. Its eyes, black and hungry, locked onto him immediately. Noah felt his entire body scream with adrenaline. Stimulus response test. Specimen must evasion or counter. Assessment begins. The beast charged. Noah barely moved in time. He rolled to the side, barely dodging the blur of fangs and claws that tore through the ground where he had stood. He scrambled to his feet. No weapons, no way out, just him and it. And it was watching, learning, adjusting. Specimen displaying high motor function. Continue observation. Noah took a slow breath, heart hammering. He couldn't run forever. He had to think. It was a game to them. They wanted to see how humans reacted, how we survived. Fine. He'd give them a show. The next time it lunged, Noah sidestepped instead of retreating. He let it get closer than before, just enough to test something. The creature overshot. It snarled, whipping around, but now Noah knew something vital. It wasn't perfect. It relied on speed, not control. He could use that. He positioned himself near the enclosure's edge, waiting. The beast charged again, faster, angrier. At the last second, Noah dropped to the ground. The creature slammed into the wall. A sharp, inhuman cry of pain echoed through the air as it tumbled, momentarily dazed. Noah didn't hesitate. He grabbed the nearest object he could find, a rock, a piece of artificial debris, and drove it downward, a sickening crunch. Silence. He stood there panting, heart racing. Specimen displaying strategic adaptation, marked for advanced training. Noah's stomach sank. They weren't surprised. They were impressed. The door reopened. This time the force controlling his limbs wasn't necessary. Noah walked out on his own, because now he understood. This wasn't just a test, it was selection, and he had just proven himself worthy of whatever came next. Noah Carter had survived his first test. That was his first mistake. Now they knew he was useful. He was led down another corridor, this one darker, colder. The lights here didn't hum with artificial brightness. They pulsed, rhythmic and alive, like the breathing of something enormous. This wasn't a lab. This was something worse. Ahead, he saw rows of cages, but these were different. The humans here weren't being tested. They were changed. The first thing Noah noticed was the silence. No screaming, no crying, just vacant stares. People sat in individual enclosures, spaced out, isolated from each other, their eyes empty, their movements slow, mechanical. At first, he thought they were sick, but then he saw it. The collars, thin metallic bands wrapped around each human's throat, pulsing with an eerie blue glow. The people inside their cages weren't unconscious. They were waiting for orders, for commands, like obedient pets. Specimen 432-7, initiate phase 2. Noah's collar tightened. His muscles locked. An unseen force dragged him forward. Panic surged in his chest. This was it. This was where they broke him. His feet carried him to an open chamber, where a chair sat in the center. Straps hung from its arms and legs. The moment he was inside, the collar released him. He collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His fingers brushed against his throat, feeling the smooth, cold metal. Not a shock collar. Not exactly. Something worse. The door sealed shut. Then the voice returned. Specimen 432-7, observe, understand, accept. A screen flickered to life. At first it showed nothing, just static, shifting lines of distorted images. Then it began, a sequence. First it showed Earth. Not the Earth Noah remembered, not the sky he had once stood beneath. This Earth was dark, silent, hollow. Ruins replaced cities, desolation replaced movement. Noah's breath caught in his throat. Was this real? Was this happening? Or was it something worse? The screen shifted. It showed humans, broken, tamed. Some were kneeling, obediently feeding their alien masters. Others worked tirelessly, moving like machines devoid of free thought. Their eyes, they all had the same empty stare. This is peace. This is order. The collar pulsed. Pain flooded Noah's skull. Not just pain, a presence. Something was inside his head, twisting, reaching. His thoughts, his very identity, felt like it was being peeled apart, layer by layer. Noah clenched his jaw, fought back. He knew what this was. Brainwashing, conditioning. The images flashed faster. More visions of submission, more whispers of peace. Then they showed him something different. Himself. Noah saw his own face, distorted and screaming. He saw himself running, fighting, resisting. He saw his own death, over and over, each time more violent than the last. The message was clear: obey or suffer. His body shook, his mind splintered. But Noah Carter was not ready to break. The collar pulsed again, harder. His vision blurred. His heartbeat slowed. Somewhere deep in his subconscious, a door began to close. That's how they do it. They don't beat you down. They erase you, piece by piece, thought by thought, until there's nothing left but obedience. You will accept. You will comply. Number, no, I won't. Noah clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms until he felt blood. Pain, real pain, his mind, his thoughts, his will. His, not theirs. He focused on the pain. The sting of torn skin, the burn of exhaustion. He anchored himself inside his own body. The images kept flashing. The voice kept whispering. But he didn't listen. They could show him a million lies. They could try to bury him in darkness. But he would crawl through it. He would fight. And when he opened his eyes, he realized something. The collar's glow, it was flickering. A door slid open. Two aliens entered, watching him closely. One held a syringe, a backup plan, for when the training didn't work. Noah's mind raced. He had seconds. He had one chance. As the alien stepped forward, Noah dropped to the ground, fast. He faked the collapse. The moment he hit the floor, he felt hands reaching down. That was their mistake. Noah moved. With all the strength left in his body, he grabbed the alien's wrist, twisting it hard. The syringe clattered to the floor. The second alien reacted too late. Noah lunged, grabbing the syringe, and stab! The alien's body jerked. Its dark eyes widened. Noah didn't wait to see what happened next. He ran. The hallway was empty. Alarms hadn't sounded. They weren't used to this. Their conditioning had never failed before. Noah staggered forward, barely keeping himself upright. But he wasn't done yet. Up ahead, he saw a control panel, and beside it, a row of collars, waiting to be used. Noah's pulse spiked. If he could shut it down, if he could free the others, then maybe, just maybe, this nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. Noah Carter wasn't free. Not yet. But he had something more dangerous than freedom. He had a choice, and that was something these aliens had never accounted for. He moved fast. His body was wrecked, limbs weak, mind still swimming in the aftershock of whatever brainwashing nightmare they'd put him through. But adrenaline was a hell of a drug. Ahead, the control panel glowed in eerie, pulsating light, the same color as the collars, the same unnatural hum that had drilled into his skull during the conditioning process. If he was right, if he could break it, then this nightmare wasn't just his, it was theirs. Noah's fingers flew over the controls, blindly tapping, testing. The symbols were alien, but systems were universal. A cage needs a lock needs a key. And this was the key to every human in the facility. He had one shot, then a sound. Footsteps, heavy, fast, approaching from the left. Noah barely had time to react. A massive alien figure lunged into the room, moving faster than anything its size had the right to. Noah twisted at the last second. Too slow. A thick, clawed hand slammed into his shoulder, throwing him across the room like a rag doll. He hit the floor hard, skidding against the cold metal. Pain flared in his ribs. Damn, that one was going to hurt later, if he made it that far. The alien advanced. No hesitation. No fear. These things had never feared a human before. Why would they? To them, Noah was just an animal that wouldn't sit still. Just a pet acting out. A deep, guttural voice rumbled from the creature. Specimen 432-7. Cease resistance. Noah spit blood. Grinned. Nah. He dove. Pain exploded through his body as he rammed into the alien's midsection, tackling it backward. It barely stumbled. But Noah wasn't trying to win. He was trying to reach the panel. A hand shot out. Fingers brushed against the collar control. A second impact sent him crashing down. The alien pinned him, one massive hand around his throat. Squeezing, Noah's vision blurred. His lungs screamed. The collar flashed. The control panel was right there. He reached, but his strength was fading. Too weak. The alien leaned in. You will submit! Noah gasped, clawed at its grip. Then he stopped. A whisper in the back of his mind. A memory. Something his father used to say. A man fights with his hands. An animal fights with everything. The aliens saw humans as animals. Maybe it was time to act like one. Noah lunged forward, and he bit. His teeth sank deep into the alien's wrist. The creature roared, jerked back. And Noah? Noah took his shot. He slammed his fist against the panel, and everything changed. A low hum filled the air. The glow of the collars flickered, then pulsed violently. Somewhere beyond this room, hundreds of humans lifted their heads. Their eyes cleared. The fog lifted. The facility shook. The alien stumbled back, clutching its wrist, black blood oozing between its fingers. Noah grinned, breathless. Told you I wouldn't submit. The alien snarled, lunging again. But this time it wasn't alone. The doors slammed open, and they came pouring in. Humans, awake, furious, free. Some of them still stumbled, collars smoking, systems struggling to reboot their minds. But others moved with purpose. And for the first time, the alien invaders took a step back. They had never accounted for this. For humans to break conditioning, for humans to fight back, for humans to bite. Noah staggered to his feet. One of the other humans, a woman with a fresh scar across her temple, grabbed his arm, steadying him. What the hell did you do? Noah smirked. Something stupid. Oh, it worked. Yeah, he admitted, breathing hard. But we're not done. Beyond the doors, alarms blared. The facility was on high alert. More guards were coming, more of the monsters that had kept them as pets, as playthings. Noah had freed them, but now they had to win. He turned to the others. some faces still full of confusion, some full of fear, but all of them alive. And right now, that was enough. They think we're animals. So let's show them what happens when you back a cornered animal into a cage. He clenched his fists, and together they ran, straight into the fire. The air inside the alien containment facility was thick with tension. The humans had been caged like animals, but that was beginning to change. Ezra crouched in the dim light, the alien restraint collar around his neck humming faintly, suppressing his energy. He had spent days analyzing the patterns of their captors, the towering reptilian Zephyrins who patrolled the prison with mechanical precision. But tonight something was different. A faint click echoed through the cell block. It was subtle, but Ezra recognized the sound of a lock disengaging. His heart pounded. Had the plan actually worked? Across from him, Sarah's fingers trembled as she grasped the now loose bars of her cage. Her collar had been deactivated by an unseen force, just as they had hoped. She locked eyes with Ezra, her voice barely a whisper. It worked. Someone on the outside is helping us. Ezra clenched his fists, feeling the energy surge back into his limbs now that the collar had shut down. Whoever had turned it off wasn't just freeing them. They were giving them a chance to fight. The first move. The guards were methodical, but even the most efficient routines had weak points. Ezra had studied them for weeks, and he knew they rotated shifts every 4 hours. There was a 90-second window where the patrols overlapped, just enough time to act. He turned to the others. We move now. Stay low. If you see a chance to grab a weapon, take it. Sarah nodded, and so did the others. Will, an ex-military engineer, Nadia, a doctor, and Lucas, barely more than a teenager, but with the heart of a soldier. The cages creaked as they pushed open the unlocked doors. A voice crackled through the hidden comm device they had found buried in the floor beneath a loose panel. It was distorted but urgent. Move quickly. You have a limited window before they notice. Ezra didn't know who the voice belonged to, but he didn't have time to care. They had to trust that someone, something, wanted them out. They slipped around the corridors, their bare feet silent against the cold metallic floor. The air smelled sterile, metallic, and thick with alien technology. The prison was a blend of organic and mechanical, smooth walls that pulsed like living tissue, dim bioluminescent lights that flickered whenever they moved too fast. Ahead, a lone Zyphoran guard stood at a checkpoint, his weapon humming with contained plasma energy. Ezra signaled to the others. I'll handle it. Ezra pressed himself against the wall and moved with practiced precision. The Zyphoran turned, sensing something. Too late. Ezra lunged, wrapping his arm around the alien's thick-scaled throat. The guard thrashed, but the human's grip was unwavering. A sharp snap ended the struggle. Ezra caught the alien's rifle before it hit the ground. One weapon down. More to go. The halls of the damned, they moved through the prison like ghosts, freeing as many captives as they could along the way. Some were too weak to fight, malnourished and broken, but others, former soldiers, engineers, survivors, took up the weapons of fallen guards and moved with them. The more they advanced, the clearer it became. This wasn't just a prison. This was an experiment. In one chamber, they found humans encased in glass tubes, their bodies suspended in strange bioluminescent liquid. Some twitched involuntarily, as if locked in a nightmare. Others were motionless, either unconscious or worse. Sarah stared in horror. They're testing on us, studying us like lab rats. Ezra clenched his fists. Not anymore. He lifted his stolen rifle and aimed at the containment systems. With a single shot, the glass shattered. Alarms erupted across the facility. There was no more hiding now. The hunt begins. The Zyphorans reacted fast. Heavy metallic doors slammed shut, cutting off certain exits. Their reptilian voices hissed commands through their communications. Footsteps thundered in the distance. More guards were coming. Keep moving, Ezra shouted. They sprinted through the halls, gunfire erupting behind them. Plasma bolts sizzled past, scorching the walls. A woman screamed as a blast barely missed her. Lucas, clutching a rifle far too large for him, fired blindly over his shoulder. The shot hit one of their pursuers square in the chest, sending the foreign crashing against the wall. Ezra turned a corner, but his path was blocked. A massive, hulking alien in battle armor stood in the way, its plasma blade humming with deadly energy. The creature sneered. Humans, always so eager to run. It makes the hunt more exciting. Ezra gritted his teeth. Yeah? Then let's make this a real challenge. The alien lunged, blades swinging in a wide arc. Ezra barely dodged in time, feeling the heat of the plasma just inches from his skin. He rolled, raising his stolen rifle and squeezing the trigger. The shot slammed into the alien's shoulder, staggering it but not stopping it. The Zephoran grinned, blood dripping from its wound. It liked the fight. Ezra growled, "Bad idea." He surged forward, swinging the rifle like a club, smashing it across the alien's jaw. The impact sent the Zephoran reeling, just long enough for Ezra to deliver the final shot, a clean blast to the head. The body hit the ground with a heavy thud. "Ezra!" Sarah called. "More incoming!" Ezra grabbed the fallen alien's plasma blade and turned just in time to see a wave of Zyphorans pouring into the corridor. They were outnumbered. A door to freedom. Then, boom! A sudden explosion rocked the facility. The walls trembled. Ezra barely had time to register what was happening before the same distorted voice crackled through the stolen comm device. "Reinforcements are coming. Get to Sector 9. There's a way out." Ezra didn't hesitate. "Everyone! Sector 9, now!" They ran through the smoke-filled corridors as the prison crumbled around them. Ezra didn't know what awaited them in Sector 9, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just an escape anymore. This was a war, and they had just fired the first shot. Smoke filled the corridors as alarms blared in chaotic dissonance. The once sterile halls of the alien prison were now stained with blood, both human and Zyphoran. The air reeked of burning metal and ozone from the plasma weapons still discharging in the distance. Ezra and his ragtag group of survivors pushed forward, following the distorted voice's cryptic instruction. Sector 9, a way out. It was their only hope. But the I-Forans had regrouped fast. From behind, heavy footsteps rumbled closer. Ezra glanced back to see a squad of armored Zyphoran enforcers, each one twice the size of a human, their weapons glowing with charged plasma. "Move!" Ezra shouted, forcing himself to sprint harder. Lucas, barely keeping up, clutched his stolen rifle, breath ragged. "Where the hell is Sector 9? Sarah skidded to a stop at an intersection, glancing wildly at the overhead alien markings. I don't know how to read this language." Ezra yanked the comm device from his belt, pressing it against his ear as he ran. "Whoever you are, we need better directions. Now!" A static-filled response crackled through. "Next left, Maintenance Tunnel 32A. Hurry." Ezra trusted it without hesitation. He grabbed Sarah's arm and yanked her left, leading the others into the dimly lit passage. The moment they crossed the threshold, a heavy blast door slammed down behind them, sealing off the Zyphoran pursuers. For now. The unseen ally. They slowed, catching their breath in the confined maintenance tunnel. The air here was damp, the walls slick with organic, pulsating material, another grotesque mixture of Zyphoran biotechnology. Ezra turned to Sarah, who had already begun inspecting a nearby console. "Can you override the security systems? Lock down their reinforcements?" She shook her head, wiping sweat from her brow. "Not with this junk. It's encrypted, and we don't have time." Lucas groaned, leaning against the wall. "So we're still just rats in a maze, huh?" A vent cover behind them clanked to the floor. Everyone spun around, weapons raised. From the shadows, a figure emerged, humanoid, but not entirely human. Its skin had a subtle metallic sheen, eyes gleaming an unnatural violet under the dim lights. Ezra tightened his grip on his plasma blade. "Who the hell are you?" The stranger raised both hands in a gesture of peace. "My name is Drelk. I am not your enemy." Sarah narrowed her eyes. "You're Zyphoran. Why are you helping us?" Drelk hesitated, then exhaled, his slitted pupils narrowing. Not all of us believe in the enslavement of lesser species. Not all of us see humans as animals. Ezra scoffed. Gee, thanks for the compliment. Drelk ignored the sarcasm. You need to reach the gateway before the High Warden realizes what's happening. I can take you there. Ezra didn't trust him. Not entirely. But right now they had no better option. The path of no return. Drelk led them through the winding maintenance shafts, bypassing security checkpoints and biometric scanners with codes only an insider would know. The further they went, the more they realized how deep the Zephorans' plans truly ran. Along the way, they passed more containment chambers, rows of unconscious humans suspended in alien stasis fields, their bodies hooked up to devices, siphoning something from them. They're harvesting us, Sarah whispered, horrified. Drelk's face darkened. They aren't just capturing your people, they're studying your physiology, your resilience. They fear what you could become if left unchecked. Ezra clenched his fists. Then we give them a reason to be afraid. They pressed on. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a reinforced hatch at the end of the corridor. Drelk pressed a control panel, and the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a massive docking bay. The gateway. The sight stole their breath away. A shimmering portal, easily 50 feet wide, crackled with unstable energy. On the other side, glimpses of stars and planetary landscapes flickered in and out of existence, as if the portal was connected to multiple locations at once. That's not just a door, Lucas murmured. That's a damn teleportation gate. Drelk nodded. It's the High Warden's private escape route. It can take you beyond this sector, out of Zephyrin space entirely, but it's unstable. If we don't set the coordinates correctly, you could end up anywhere. Or worse, nowhere. Ezra's grip on his plasma blade tightened. Then we do it right. Drelk moved toward the control panel, inputting sequences at rapid speed. I can program a safe destination, but it will take a few minutes. They didn't have minutes. The moment the alarm stopped blaring, Ezra knew why. Silence. Too much silence. Then, thoom. The doors behind them imploded. Zephyrin shock troops stormed in, led by something far worse. The High Warden. The final stand. The High Warden was massive, easily twice the size of any Yephoran they had faced. Its body was encased in obsidian black armor, pulsating with deep crimson veins. It carried a weapon Ezra had never seen before, a jagged energy staff that hummed with raw destruction. Humans, the High Warden growled, voice like grinding metal. You have entertained me with your defiance, but this ends here. Ezra raised his plasma blade. Yeah, we were just about to leave, but if you want to fight, we're happy to oblige. The Warden didn't wait. It moved faster than anything that size should. Ezra barely parried the first strike, his arms nearly shattering from the impact. The room erupted into chaos. Sarah and Lucas fired wildly, plasma bolts bouncing off the Warden's armor. Drelk frantically worked the console, his fingers moving in a blur. Ezra ducked and rolled, barely dodging another earth-shattering swing. The Warden was toying with him. You fight like a beast backed into a corner, the Warden taunted. But that is what you are, isn't it? A wild, lesser creature, struggling against inevitability. Ezra grinned despite the pain. Yeah, and yet here you are, treating us like a real threat. The Warden snarled and lunged, but this time Ezra was ready. He sidestepped at the last second, pivoting midair, and drove his plasma blades straight into the Warden's exposed side. The creature roared in fury, but before it could retaliate, Drelk shouted, Go! The gate is ready! Ezra didn't hesitate. He grabbed Lucas and threw him toward the gate. Sarah followed, diving headfirst into the swirling energy. Drelk hit the final sequence, turning back to Ezra. This will not be the last time we meet, human. Ezra smirked, looking forward to it. Then he jumped. The world dissolved into light. Ezra's body felt like it was being torn apart and reassembled all at once. The energy of the portal surged through him, warping space and time in ways his mind couldn't comprehend. And then, impact. He crashed onto cold, solid ground, the breath ripped from his lungs. The air was thick, humid, and filled with an unsettling silence. For a moment, he just lay there, disoriented. Then instinct kicked in. He pushed himself up, scanning his surroundings. They had made it. But to where? A hostile haven. Sarah was already on her feet, rifle at the ready, eyes darting wildly. Lucas groaned a few feet away, rubbing his shoulder from the fall. The world around them was wrong. The sky above was dark, swirling with unnatural colors, deep reds and bruised purples that bled into one another, like an open wound in the heavens. Jagged obsidian spires jutted out of the landscape, stretching toward the sky like skeletal fingers. The air carried an eerie hum, as if the planet itself was whispering. Lucas staggered to his feet. So, did we escape one nightmare just to land in another? Ezra ignored him, turning to Drelk, who had landed nearby. Where the hell did you send us? Drelk stood, brushing himself off, his slitted pupils narrowing as he observed the landscape. This was not the intended destination. Sarah let out a sharp breath. Oh, that's just fantastic. Drelk's hands hovered over his wrist device, his expression grim. The portal was unstable. The coordinates must have shifted upon activation. Ezra clenched his jaw. So where are we? Drelk's gaze darkened. We are in the graveyard. Silence fell over the group. Lucas's voice was small. The what? Drelk turned to them, his expression unreadable. A dead world, a place where the Xyphoran discard what they deem unnecessary. Ezra's stomach turned. So what? A trash planet? Drelk shook his head. Worse, a prison for the forgotten. Those who do not die in captivity are left here to rot. A distant howl echoed through the wasteland. It was unlike anything they had ever heard before, low, hollow, and hungry. The lost souls. Sarah gripped her rifle tighter. We need to move, now. Ezra nodded. Agreed. We find shelter first, then figure out a way off this rock. They moved quickly, navigating through the ruined landscape. The deeper they went, the clearer it became. They were not alone. Shadows moved in the distance. They passed twisted remains of alien structures, the bones of unknown creatures littering the ground. Every so often, the wind carried the sound of something skittering. Then they found them, the survivors. A ragged group of humans and other alien species, eyes sunken, bodies wrapped in makeshift armor, scavenged from the dead. They emerged from the ruins, weapons drawn. Ezra stepped forward, hands raised. We're not your enemies. A man with graying hair and haunted eyes stepped forward, appraising them. New arrivals, he murmured. Xyphoran, too. His gaze locked onto Drelk with thinly veiled hatred. Drelk stiffened but said nothing. Ezra took a step closer. We didn't come here willingly. We're looking for a way out. The man chuckled darkly. There is no way out. Behind him, others murmured in agreement. Sarah squared her jaw. There has to be. The man studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Maybe there is. But if you want to live long enough to find it, you better be ready to fight. Ezra frowned. Fight what? Then, as if on cue, the howls returned. Closer this time. The survivor's leader tightened his grip on his weapon. The ones who never die. The unspeakable horrors. The first attack came as a blur. A monstrous shape lunged from the darkness, tall, emaciated, its flesh stretched thin over a grotesque frame. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, unblinking as it moved with unnatural speed. Ezra barely had time to react before one of the survivors fired. A blast of plasma tore through the creature's midsection, but it didn't stop. It kept coming. Ezra slashed upward with his plasma blade, severing its arm in a spray of blackened ichor. The creature reeled but didn't fall. It turned its eyeless gaze toward him and grinned. And then more came. They spilled from the ruins like insects from a broken hive, their bodies twitching, their movements disjointed, like puppets with too many strings. The battle was chaos. Blades met flesh. Plasma tore through the air. Screams mixed with the creature's hollow wails. For everyone they killed, two more took its place. "Fall back," the old man roared. "Get to the bunker." They ran. The darkest truth, they barely made it inside, slamming the reinforced doors shut just as the creatures crashed against them. The survivors locked down the entrance, their breaths ragged, bodies slick with sweat and blood. Ezra turned to the old man. "What the hell were those things?" The man wiped his brow. "They were us." Ezra's blood ran cold. "What?" The old man met his gaze, eyes heavy with sorrow. "The Zephorans don't just leave prisoners here to die. They change them." Sarah took a step back. "You mean they experiment on them?" the old man confirmed. "Those creatures out there? They were people once. Humans. Aliens. Anything the Zephorans deemed useful for their war efforts. They twist them, break them, turn them into weapons." Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. "And if we don't get out?" The old man's expression was grim. "Then we become them." Silence stretched between them. Ezra clenched his fists. "Not happening." He turned to Drelk. "You said this place was a graveyard, but if the Zypherans left these things here, they must have a way to control them." Drelk hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There is, but it is buried deep beneath this world. A failsafe." Ezra cracked his knuckles. "Then that's where we're going." Sarah swallowed. "And if it's too late?" Ezra's gaze burned with determination. "Then we make sure we don't leave anything for the Yazeforans to salvage." He turned to the group. "We're ending this." And for the first time since they arrived, hope flickered in the eyes of the forgotten. The war wasn't over yet. The silence was suffocating. Ethan knelt in the center of the alien coliseum, his muscles burning, his breath ragged. The cold metallic floor beneath him vibrated with distant energy pulses, countless alien spectators watching from their towering platforms. He could feel their eyes drilling into him, waiting for him to break, but he wouldn't. Not now. Across from him, the last surviving human prisoner, an older man named Harris, clutched his wounded side. Blood seeped through his torn uniform. The alien warden, a towering armored being with segmented limbs, clicked its mandibles and projected a booming voice across the arena. "The final trial begins. The victor earns freedom. The weak are disposed of." The crowd erupted in an eerie chorus of screeches and guttural roars. Ethan locked eyes with Harris. They both knew the truth. This was a death match, a twisted form of entertainment for their captors. Harris coughed, grimacing. "I won't do it, kid." His voice was hoarse. "They want us to kill each other, and I won't give them that satisfaction." Ethan swallowed hard. His fingers curled into fists, nails digging into his own palms. He had seen too many fall already. Too many lost in this brutal game. A mechanical hum filled the air. The walls of the Colosseum shimmered, revealing a dozen caged humans, their bodies frail, their eyes filled with hopelessness. Among them, a small child clung to an older woman, perhaps his grandmother. Their faces were streaked with dirt, their bodies weak from malnourishment. The warden stepped forward, mandibles twitching. "Fight, or they all perish." Ethan's heart pounded. He glanced at Harris, who gave him a weak smirk. "Looks like they've stacked the odds." The old man suddenly grabbed Ethan's wrist, shoving something into his palm. Ethan looked down. His eyes widened. A small, jagged piece of metal, a weapon, smuggled from the cage. Harris took a step back, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. "Do it, Ethan." Ethan clenched his jaw. His mind screamed at him to stop, but his hands were moving. His instincts, honed through survival, took over. He lunged. The blade met flesh. Harris staggered, a gasp escaping his lips as he crumpled to the ground. Blood dripped from Ethan's trembling hands. The world blurred. The arena fell silent. Then, the warden let out a chilling screech of approval. The aliens erupted into victorious howls. The human had played by their rules. Metallic gate hissed open. A pathway formed. Freedom. Ethan stood over Harris's unmoving form, his stomach twisting into knots. He wanted to scream. He wanted to curse the monsters who had forced him into this nightmare. But there was no time. He stumbled forward toward the exit, toward whatever awaited him beyond the Colosseum. But then, a sound, a low, gurgling laugh. Harris. Ethan spun around just as the old man's form began to change. His skin rippled. His blood evaporated. His broken body began to lift, as if something else had taken hold of him. And then, his eyes snapped open. They were not human anymore. The warden hesitated, its posture shifting from arrogance to confusion. The alien audience chattered in alarm. Harris's voice was no longer frail. It was inhuman. "Did you really think we hadn't planned for this?" Ethan took a step back. His pulse thundered. A sharp hum filled the air. All at once, every single human in the cages lifted their heads. Their bodies convulsed. Their veins darkened. Their eyes burned with a strange glow. A terrifying realization struck Ethan. They had never been prisoners. They had been waiting. A deafening explosion rocked the Colosseum. The reinforced walls shattered. Outside, ships descended from the darkness, bearing the insignia of a force Ethan had never seen before. The sky above the alien world cracked. Massive human warships emerged from hyperspace. The real invasion had begun. Harris, or whatever had become of him, smiled. "You played your part, kid. Now it's our turn." And then, hell itself was unleashed. The end, or just the beginning.